She works in real estate.
Excellent.
Real estate.
Estate.
Real estate, yes.
Real estate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And the other one, she works in renewable energy. She's settled. She has her boyfriend, so she's very settled.
You have daughters?
Huh?
Daughters?
2 daughters.
Nice.
How about you?
One son, one daughter.
Oh, nice. And where do they live?
Son lives with me in Korea.
Huh?
Daughter lives in Seattle, USA.
Her husband, with a friend or whatever. Yeah.
She's a professor.
Nice.
I'm gonna go to the States this summer.
Morning.
To see how she's doing.
Yeah, you're gonna go there. Yes, that's important.
Yeah.
I have tricks in that.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Ince Heshmat, Senior Legal Expert in EBRD, and I would like to thank you for attending today's launching seminar under the Knowledge Sharing Program titled Action Planning for Startups Ecosystem Support in Egypt. Today's program is presented by the South Korean Development Institute in collaboration with Korea's Ministry of Economy and Finance, Egypt's Ministry of Economy, Planning and Economic Development, EBRD and EBRD. The launching seminar shall tackle 2 main objectives, which are designing a policy framework for the promotion of startups in Egypt, developing measures to finance startups and SMEs. And now I will leave the floor to EBRD's Executive Director, Dr. Hiba Shaheen, to say her word.
Thank you, Inji. Is this working? Assalamu alaikum jami'an. I'm very happy because I see faces that very close to my heart and very close to the work we've done in relation to the startup ecosystem. And as EBRD Executive Director, we recognize the importance of supporting entrepreneurship and startup and creating an environment to foster the growth and innovation. These are the 2 points that we really want to stress on. That is why we have developed a comprehensive plan to further promote and support startup in Egypt. Some of you know that we have been visiting South Korea in October. And after this visit, we had created this report, which has a lot of information about the South Korean ecosystem and also about the Egyptian ecosystem. And we have some aspiration to build more. And that's why we have the program with the knowledge sharing program with South Korea. We found out that according to the Global Startup Ecosystem Index report in 2022, that Egypt ranked 65 among 100 countries, which is extremely low in terms of ecosystem and startup. We have a plan. We don't have to stick to the plan because we have our colleague here from South Korea. It's very flexible. But we have like 5 pillars we want to stress on it. 1, we would like to establish a strategy, a national strategy for startup, but not only a national strategy for startup, but actually to be enacted, to be enforced. It has to be regulated somehow, of course, with flexibility, but at least an umbrella that all the different institutions can fit within. 2, establishing a national startup fund. After meeting several meetings the last few days, we discovered that this is something that we need in Egypt, a real fund of fund or a national startup fund. And we would love to plan with the South Korean to create a fund to support startup growth and development, to provide different startups at different stages of development, and will prioritize startups that are addressing key social challenges or goals for Egypt. And 3, expanding our incubators and accelerator program. 4, strengthening our intellectual property protection, which is something which is not addressed while we're having our thoughts for the startup in Egypt and within the different institutions that we met. Promoting international cooperation and collaboration. And we recognize that after our visit in South Korea in relation to the startup and in relation to different things. I think this is the seed for more cooperation. I think the most important issue that we talked about, and especially yesterday, that we need an action plan, but not only this. I think we need to contextualize whatever experience we had and we gained from the South Korean, whether now or in the future, to contextualize it within Egypt. There are two schools of thoughts. One, which is the Montesquieu thought, think that we need every law or every kind of concept has to be within its social context and economic context. But Alan Watson later thought of you can contextualize it. And I think this is our approach in Egypt. We have to take the ideas and what South Korea have built. I have here 60 pages of report. I'm going to this minute distribute it to all of you. It's actually on EBRD website. And one of the things that we discussed yesterday is also that they started in the 70s, then another wave in the 90s, then another wave 2016 to build a Korea SMEs and startup agency, the COSME, and that's exactly what we want to do. We want to have, we don't want to have something stagnated. We want to have it in different waves for implementing a good ecosystem for startup. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Heba. This is exactly what we work for every day, and this is our mission. Thank you, Dr. Richard Jones, for your patience, and I would like to introduce him. Dr. Richard is the Director of the Regional Networks for Summit Region. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Thank you very much, and good morning, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, let me begin by thanking the Egyptian government and the Korean Development Institute for this first workshop of the knowledge sharing program on the Egyptian government's support for startup ecosystems. I especially and very much appreciate Dr. Heba for her and EBRD's leading participation and partnership since the start of this journey on the earlier knowledge transfer project. This previous project with the KDI comprehensively examined the startup ecosystem, legislative framework, and non-legislative public support in both Egypt and Korea. It was very interesting to understand how both Korean and Egyptian governments have significantly supported startup ecosystems at the policy level by increasing the relevant budget quite fast during recent years and shifting their beneficiary target to more innovative tech businesses. It does seem obvious that tech and knowledge-based industries will become more important for the future economy of Egypt, as well as other EBRD countries of operations. They bring a much-needed dynamic of innovation, employment, and private sector-led economic growth. The EBRD aims to increase its support for these startups and their ecosystems, together with our international partners. And it was great to meet Dr. Heba and many others at the event we organized with the Alliance for Entrepreneurship in Africa to support startups last month in Cairo. And so in this context, the knowledge sharing program is of great importance to us. We believe Korea's tremendous and successful experience can be of great value as the Egyptian authorities work with their partners to establish a more systematic startup support framework, entrepreneurship education system, and supportive regulatory and institutional environment for the healthy and fast growth of the startup ecosystem in the country. And so, representing the EBRD, I am delighted that we can further promote knowledge sharing through this meaningful project. I wish you all a very fruitful workshop.
Thank you so much, Dr. Richard. And now I'll leave the floor for Dr. Kyung-Woo Cho, Head of Delegation, to lead the session and present it to you. Thank you.
Good morning, everybody. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to stand here. Oh, actually, I'm sitting here in a country of great cultural heritage, profound potential for socioeconomic development. And I want to share my appreciation for the excellent preparation and warm hospitality extended toward the Korean delegation. And also on behalf of the KDI, I'd like to express our appreciation to the Ministry of Planning and Economic Development and EBRD for demonstrating an excellent partnership as the co-organizer. And especially I want to thank to Dr. Hiba and all of her colleagues. I was so much impressed with the passion of Dr. Hiba and all the other experts and businessmen to make this country work better and develop more. It was a great impression for me. Several countries, and Egypt has been the most impressive one to me. This KSP program, the Knowledge Sharing Program, was launched by the Ministry of Strategy and Finance of Korea and KDI in 2004. It was initiated in an effort to contribute to the socio-economic development of partner countries, friends all over the world by sharing Korea's unique experience. It is unique in many ways, but the most important point is that Korea started from scratch, out of nothing, and initiated and invented new institutions, new ways of administration, and new ways of monitoring, evaluation, stuff like that. And of course, we studied a lot of other advanced countries, but it's all adapted to new Korean situation and context. And the same thing should be happening in Egypt too. Since 2013, Egypt and Korea has been working together to develop more effective policies for the socio-economic development. And there were 8 consultations and 2 capacity building programs through KSP. This year is the 11th year of the cooperation. As Indy said, the topic is one, designing policy framework to improve the startup ecosystem in Egypt. And second, developing policy measures to finance startups. Now, let me quickly highlight just 2 points for successful partnership between the 2 countries and the EBRD. Number one is that we have to keep in mind that KSP is all about listening to our partner countries, and we have to understand that the local context of Egypt is the key of this program. And this is especially important for the Korean researchers and the local consultants. Mutual learning between them will be the foundation of a successful project report and policy recommendations. The second point is that even though this program is based on Korea's experience during the 7 decades, but the experience does not have only successful stories. We have more stories of failures and challenges. And sharing these stories of failures and challenges, as well as the success stories, will be proven to be valuable for this project and for Egyptian future. The shortcomings Korea had before will become milestones for further development of Egypt, I hope. It's a great pleasure to welcome all of you again to this launching seminar of 2022-23 EBRD Egypt KSP project. I hope this will be the beginning of a new partnership, more practical, more effective. On behalf of the Korean delegation, I thank all of you for your hospitality and warm welcome given to us during the last week so graciously. Dr. Hiba, Mrs. Rim, Nadine, and Inji, and Esdin, he's not here. Thank you, everybody. I hope this seminar will be a proof of the continuation of this great partnership. Shukran Zadillah. And we are going to start the presentation with Professor King. We have two presenters, but unfortunately, the other professor, Troy, had to leave the country early because he had another schedules in Korea. So we'll see him in a movie. It's going to be quite boring.
We can't wait.
Okay, let's start with Professor Kim. The first topic about policy framework design. Please.
Can we just take a really quick group photo before presenting so that we can, like, yeah, all the hard work.
ناخد الفوتو دلوقتي اوكي انجي is very organized عايزين كرسي تاني الترنيم صح؟ عايزين مع الناس
Go down.
everyone first and then لا معاك تعمل ورا لا الفرقه دي الاول بعدين الفرقه يلا يا هندسه انا في النص عايزين
انجي تعالي اتفضلي.
انا بتهيألي تحت هنبقى باينين. تعالى تحت هنبقى باينين.
회장님 안녕하세요.
So we start the video now? Yeah. يلا انجي.
Okay, so now we're gonna watch a video tailored by KSP program.
My friend, Professor Combs, my friend.
KSP Knowledge Sharing Program is a platform to share Korea's development experience with partner countries. Korea has accumulated experiences in diverse policy areas throughout its development stages. Korea's experience has become the main asset of KSP. To deliver practical know-how to our partners, KSP invites people with first-hand experience on Korea's transformation. KSP is managed by the Ministry of Economy and Finance, and specific projects are undertaken by organizations with the related expertise. In order to produce practical solutions, KSP starts with mutual learning. Invites local policymakers to be part of the initiative. Throughout the entire program, Korean experts and local consultants work hand in hand. Knowledge sharing and interactions become strong foundations for turning potential into real capacities. KSP can deliver not only solutions for institution building, but also operational knowledge needed to tackle the challenges of our partners together. Final results are delivered to key decision makers so that KSP can act as a bridge between policy practitioners and policymakers. KSP's focus on practicality was answered by the increasing number of partner countries. Goes far beyond policy recommendations. KSP leads to tangible results, including legal frameworks, roadmaps, and new institutions. Moreover, KSP opens up a new horizon for international cooperation. By hosting investment forums or business dialogues, KSP is making significant contributions in private sector development. KSP drives for sustainable development of our partners by implementing ECF or export finance to support infrastructure development. KSP is widely acclaimed in the international community as an effective platform for knowledge sharing. KSP is conducting various cooperation projects with international organizations. Grow together with knowledge. Start with KSP.
Thank you for an outstanding video. We are very happy with the collaboration and we look forward to actually developing the program. And now I would like to present Dr. Sean Erikin, Principal Investigator for the project.
I'm Jong Kim. I'm Professor of Economics at Dongguk University, which is located in the center of the Seoul city, and I'm an economist. So I'm very happy to be here, and then thank you for coming here in the morning, spending your time to hear. So I think I have to compensate you with some concrete comments or some interesting stories. But this seminar is just a launching seminar. It's a kind of some ceremonial launching seminar in the actual signals that this program engages. So please actually forgive me if I'm a little too superficial in my contents. But anyway, I actually spent 4 days here, and I visited lots of people, government people, and startup CEOs, and then many people in the country. In Korea, I was a kind of blind person in the elevator. I can see some voice like I is a kind of, oh, is this close or something like that. So, like people, as I came here, as I see many people here, my actually further actually comes to clear picture as whether this is big elephant or small elephant, or it is just a horse or something like that. But anyway, I think it is very big and big elephant, I think, with a lot of population and then many potential because large population means you have many talented people in the country. So the problem is you have to actually make those talented people to work hard and then to be more productive. So Dr. Heba and the EBRD asked me to study what could be done to improve startup ecosystem in Egypt. So, but after I came here, I found that the startup is a kind of fund, very small fund, which has growth potential and with some innovative ideas. But the problem these startups facing now actually reflects more fundamental and problems any other firms, whether it is large firm or it's small firm, actually are facing now. So I think even though we actually study the startup ecosystem, I think we have to touch the deeper and fundamental aspect or factors which may actually deter Egypt from growing fast or something like that. So if you want to actually have some good startups, you have to support them. Okay? We have to support them in finance, in people, in marketing, and many other things. We have to support them. Also, we have to free them from some shackles of regulations. So, as you already know that ease of doing business in Egypt is not so good in comparison to other countries. That's the reason why many startups try to incorporate them in other countries, like United States or some other Europe countries. But anyway, I found it is quite interesting that your Egyptian government recognized the importance of the startup policy. Now, so I found that several ministries, including Ministry of IT and Ministry of Investment, Turkey, and many ministries try to promote startups by themselves. So also I visited some banks where Uncle my pronunciation.
Yeah,
And then they also have some startup incubation and accelerator program. And I found that there are lots of many incubators and then accelerators also. Private company also, there's a private company accelerating startups. So it's very vibrant environment in Cairo. But I wonder whether that kind of for the startups is kind of effective or not. But it's not easy as an outsider. It's not easy to evaluate it, but I will see. I basically here. But I will see what is going on here. But what I can do best is that we have some experience in Korea. Particularly, we also received IMF relief fund in 1997. So any Korean knows about the situation at that time. So everybody worries about the future of the country. And even we collected some gold in the house to pay for the country debt. So we actually saw the long line of people to pay their gold to the government. So the government used that gold, convert it into dollar, and then pay back some debt. But it's a kind of small contribution to pay back the debt. But it's a kind of country people's will to actually overcome the difficulty of the country. So in 1997, the government thought that the startup is a kind of some break or kind of a channel which can transfer that kind of wave into some vibrance or the dynamics of it. So we made the law in 1997, which is called special measures for the promotion of venture businesses. And then the government actually made law, and then they actually equipped the law with lots of programs to support. And then also under the pressure of IMF, so the government should actually implement some structural reform in terms of finance, in terms of public finance, and then labor relations, and many things. So because it was a crisis, so the crisis made people to actually be more to have reform much easier in peaceful times. So so in 1997, this kind of startup promotion actually was actually introduced lots of startups, and then we also introduced another stock market which is called POSTA for some tech funds to list themselves in the stock market, so that to provide an incentive for from the exit of the funds. And then because the government push at that time was I think they found to be too much, so that it has some negative side effects. And then in 2004, we actually streamlined or again, it's called venture business revitalizing measures. So we have that kind of experience in Korea. And then since then we actually learned from the failure and success of the government support. So I think that the situation is quite similar for my feeling from visiting here. So what it is, you actually receive some relief funds now, and then everybody thinks that there is some macroeconomic crisis because of devaluation of Egyptian pound, and then also anybody thinks that worried about the future. But unfortunately, from 2017, we have some success stories about from the start. But the young people really find that startup is a kind of future for them, and then actually the success story from some startups actually stimulate the young people to become more productive businessmen. So I think I don't know whether this is kind of comparison is right or not, but the situation in Egypt and the situation in Korea in 1997 may be quite different. But anyway, under the crisis, we pushed startups, and then we actually learned from that. So, what we can do is, what I can do is that we are going to actually introduce some Korean experience from 1997, and what we did, and what kind of support, and what kind of reform we did, and then how government governs policies. So in my report, the title of the report is Designing Policy Framework to Improve the Startup Ecosystem in Egypt. So what I mean by the policy framework is that the government actually implements lots of programs. Each ministry actually tries to do something, but as Dr. Eva always says, we need some strategy. Okay? So because limited resource, limited budget, we have to focus on some key targets to actually make this effort become more fruitful. Okay? So what I think is that Korea is quite very famous for its strategy management over the economic policy. I would say that one reason for the successful economic development so far is we have some strategy. So all the country actually focus on some key performance indicator. So the key performance indicator since 1960 is export. So the export is a kind of quite objective and transparent quantitative measure. So if somebody exports, we know who exports, how much, how they do that. So, so in that sense, I think it is important for even though it is not so easy to actually target some certain goal in terms of startup policy. But anyway, the government spends some money and some people to actually promote the startup policy. They should actually have some goal and strategy, and then some plan, and then some monitoring, and then also evaluation. And then so what I'm saying is that at least you need some coordination entity in the government, but it's not so easy because there's always a curve war between the departments to actually enlarge their scope of policies. But anyway, if the top officials and top leadership has at least understand why we need some coordination entity and some kind of plan, then we can actually streamline a little bit scattered effort by the many ministries into one form. So this is what I think. And in addition, so to do that, actually you need some kind of form and some measures like that. So I'm going to introduce what we are doing in Korea, but Korean system should not be adaptable to Egypt because we are quite different. Because we spend a lot, we spend lots of budget and the people, and also we have lots of policy institutes in Korea. For instance, we have an organization called Korean Institute of Entrepreneurship and Startup Promotion. I don't know whether it's right, but it is called KSP-EBRD. So if you are just if you are the enterprise to start a startup, you actually contact them, and then they actually consolidate all the startup programs done by the government. Okay? So now currently we have about 50 programs to support the startup. But I don't think you need to do that because there's also some problem because too many, we think too many to exist because startups rely too much on government subsidies. But here, I think that the private sector is very, very vibrant because I'm sorry, I'm not, I don't know whether it is right to say that your government actually does not do much for the startup in terms of finance because there are always the lack of finance, lack of some talent, and lack of that. So anyway, we can actually introduce what we need, and then you can actually choose. It is right for the issue. It is not. And then you can choose, and then you can actually. That's what we are going to do. And also, I'm going to introduce you some interesting policy programs. We found a really successful in Korea, and then maybe interesting to you. So that's what I'm going to do. And then for this, I'm going to collaborate with many people here, and also I'm going to continuously contact with the local group. It's going to help me collect data, some documents here, and then we are going to meet again in June, maybe late June, and then to have more interviews because to make suggestions, I need to know progress over the understanding of the situation here. So and then finally, around October, I'm going to present you what we learned so far. So that's what that's
감사합니다.
Then we're gonna watch the movie of Professor Choi. He will be explaining his study plans, and then we're gonna take questions and comments and suggestions from the floor and from the table, the dream, everybody, and include those as many as possible into the research again. So let's go to the movie.
Thank you so much.
لقيتي؟ لا.
Just a very quick introduction. Dr. Young Seo Choi is the second investigator for the project.
He used to be a member of KDI for several years. So Professor Kim is also an adjunct fellow of KDI. So everybody cannot escape from KDI if he wants to do something about policies.
Before I start, I have to say, hello, my name is Young-Suk Choi, Professor of Economics at Yale University in Korea. And I'm responsible for the second topic of our KS collaboration with Egypt, which is the developing policy measures to finance startup. Before I start, I have to say that I'm sorry for not being able to attend the launching seminar today in person due to my prior commitment in Korea. So please allow me to show you my pre-recorded presentation. Well, this is the structure of my talk today, and I will be very brief in discussing each of these. First, introduction. To my knowledge, the Egypt government has been implementing diverse initiatives to support the development of startups and enable them to expand internationally. For example, several joint projects with international institutions provided some incentives, education programs, and fundings for startups. And other institutional reforms include the establishment of the Small and Medium Business Administration, so on and so forth. However, it seems that there continues to be a significant financing gap for startups or SMEs in general when compared internationally. The World Bank Enterprise Survey reveals that SMEs in Egypt receive only 5% of bank loans, while it is known that SMEs receive 26% of total bank loans globally. So what that means is that there exists the urgent need for policy measures to address this financing gap. In Korea, during the early stage of economic development, the government placed its emphasis on providing financial assistance to large firms that can compete more effectively in the global marketplace. However, following several economic crises, it became imperative to implement policy measures that would promote the growth of SMEs and venture companies with innovative technologies, because they are the key drivers for creating new engines for economic growth. In particular, we needed to address the problem of financial exclusion that SMEs and venture companies faced at the time. So various policy measures have been introduced, including credit guarantees, direct and indirect loans by the government, and equity investment through shareholders, as we will see in the later part of this presentation. Now, based on this backdrop, we would like to study what kind of policy measures can be developed in Egypt based upon the Korean experiences. So basically, this study will consist of three main components. First, we will analyze the current financial policy measures implemented for startups and SMEs in Egypt. In doing so, we want to identify the challenges faced by the demand and supply side of finance provision. Secondly, we will review the Korean policy experiences related to startups and SME finance, and we want to draw some implications for the Egyptian government. Finally, we would like to provide policy recommendations for the Egyptian government based on the Korean experiences. Now, I'm going to talk about the Korean experience very briefly. Just like in many other countries, startup financing policies are integrated into the broader framework of SME financing. And these general SME financing programs provide various forms of financial support, specifically designed for the different stages of SME's life cycle. Depending on whether that specific SME are at the startup stage, growth stage, maturity stage, or regrowth stage, they will receive different set of financial and non-financial assistance. Therefore, it is essential to comprehend the overall SME financing framework to fully understand the startup financing policies in Korea. Now, the current SME financing system in Korea can be shown as in the figure on the slide. So the major finance providers are positioned in the dot boxes. They include, for example, the central and local governments and the Central Bank of Korea, the Bank of Korea. And through various public and commercial financial institutions, SMEs are getting different types of financial assistance. So if this figure looks a bit complicated at a first glance, but the financial policy measures on this slide can be recategorized into three types of policy measures on the next slide. So broadly speaking, there exist three types of SME financing policies in Korea. The first one is credit guarantee scheme. Major providers of credit guarantee are KODIT, KOTEC, and Regional Credit Guarantee Fund. Another one is direct and indirect loans from the government and the central bank. KDB, the Korea Development Bank, and KXE, the Korea Export-Import Bank, provide direct loans to SMEs, and they sometimes provide indirect loans through the intermediation of other commercial banks. Another public institution under the government is the COSME, Korea SMEs and Startup Agency. They also provide such direct and indirect loans to SMEs as well. And finally, the other one is the equity investment through shareholders. The KVIT, Korea Venture Investment Corporation, was established in 2005 to stimulate investment in the growth of SMEs and startups. Roughly speaking, KVIT is the general partner of government-backed fund of funds and direct co-investment funds under the Act on Special Measures for the Promotion of Venture Business. One thing that I have to note here is that all of these policy measures contain special programs that are specifically targeting startup business. And also, among these three types of policy measures, the credit guarantee is the most important policy tool in Korea, as you will see in the next slide. In the first chart of this slide, the blue bar represents total business loans to SMEs in Korea, and the green bar is the credit guarantees to SMEs. So if you divide the green bar by blue bar, then you will get the percentage of bank loans that are covered by credit guarantees. As you can see, the amount of credit guarantees provided to SMEs itself is increasing, but to a lesser extent than bank loans provided to SMEs. Therefore, the percentage of bank loans that are covered by credit guarantee, which is a solid line in the graph, is actually decreasing recently. Although this coverage ratio of credit guarantee is decreasing, the credit guarantee is still the most crucial policy tool in Korea. The next chart shows the amount of government finance provision to SMEs. In 2020, the amount of credit guarantees recorded 80 trillion Korean won, and that was followed by the government's direct and indirect loans of 6.3 trillion Korean won, and the venture capital funding of 4.3 trillion Korean won. So from this chart, we can see that credit guarantee takes the lion's share of government financial support for SMEs in Korea. Now, in this table, I describe two different institutions that provide credit guarantees to SMEs, namely KODIT, the Korea Credit Guarantee Fund, and KOTEC, the Korea Technology Credit Guarantee Fund. The reason why I show this table is that Korea's credit guarantee scheme emphasizes startups with new technologies. If you look at the fourth line of the table, the eligibility for credit guarantees, we can see that they focus on startups, especially innovative firms with new technologies and venture firms. In the next slide, I describe more detail about KOTEC's credit guarantee business. KOTEC, the Korean Technology Credit Guarantee Fund, was established to specialize in credit guarantees for venture-certified companies and technology startups and SMEs. So as you can see in this table, the target groups include venture business, innovative enterprises, technology startups, so on and so forth. So this is just a brief look at the Korean policy measures for startups and SMEs financing. Especially, I reviewed the credit guarantee scheme in Korea in more detail because that is the most important policy tool. Of course, we will include other SME financing policy tools in Korea in our final report. From now on, we will proceed our study in the following way. First, we need to know the current situation of the Egyptian startups and SMEs in terms of their financial needs and identify the major obstacles to their financing procedure. And then we are going to analyze the differences between the Egyptian and Korean experiences and devise appropriate policy measures for Egypt, which should promote the efficiency of the current financing system in Egypt. Perhaps it would be more helpful if the final report can provide deeper case studies on 2 or 3 policy measures for institutions. But those case studies should focus on the policy measures that can be directly applied to the Egyptian situation. Before I close my talk, I would like to ask some clarifying questions. You can answer to my colleagues there or send an email to me. And the first one is whether the Egyptian government wants me to focus only on startup finance, or whether it is okay to review more general SME financing tools. In my opinion, because startups are a subset of SMEs, more comprehensive approach would be more helpful in designing appropriate policy measures. So I'm considering to study overall SME financing policies with a special attention to startups. And I would like to ask whether it is okay with you. Secondly, I would like to know whether there are any preferred policy measures that the Egypt government want to introduce in the near future. If you have those policies, and if you can let us know what they are, then we can include them in the final report and provide more practical case studies on them. Okay, that's all I have to talk today, and I hope to see you soon in person in Cairo and in Seoul. Thank you very much.
Thank you, professors, for this in-depth policy analysis. We are sure the program will bring success in the Egyptian startup ecosystem. Now I will leave the floor to discuss if anyone has any recommendations, questions in regards to the startup ecosystem. We talked a lot about developing financial measures and designing a very unified ecosystem. So does anyone have any questions?
For comments, suggestions, everything we find. I think just watching this video clip is better than having Dr. Choi over here.
It's very clear. More
It's
focused.
very clearly.
I mean, it's a lot of work, but we look forward to work together and collaborate. And I think now I'm going to leave the floor to Ms. Tadi to say her word.
But thank you so much, professors, and thank you for attending this session. We will really looking forward to the results of the study. I think that things will be clearer when you come next time in June. We'll have more interviews because, as I said, this time you were basically scratching the surface. A lot is happening in Egypt, but everything is scattered and it's very difficult to grasp the whole picture. So I'm sure it will take more time to study it in Korea. And again, my recommendation is, answering the question of the professor, I think we should look at the SME finance and at the credit guarantee. And if you would wish, we can also have maybe a video conference with the credit guarantee company in Egypt, because they have one company established by banks to provide guarantees for SMEs, but they don't work with startups. So it would be very interesting to maybe have a video conference with Dr. Nagla Bahr, who's heading this institution, and to see how SMEs have been done. I liked a lot what's happening in Korea, especially when the guarantees are directed to the high-risk SMEs, the SMEs that are at risk of solvency, because it doesn't work this way in Egypt. We give the good SMEs more and more, and the ones that are risky are always ignored. So this will be very interesting to see in the study. Again, my recommendation is to have a study that is in a format that can be easily read by policymakers who don't have a lot of time. And my biggest fear is to have a lot of papers that are, I'm sure, very valuable, because all the professors will do a lot of research, but it will be somewhere in the drawer of some policymaker and nothing will be made out of it. So at least we can have maybe an executive summary that is very clear, straight to the point, with action plans and recommendations that, if suitable, can be applied by the Egyptian government. And thank you again for your time and your effort. We look highly to the Korean experience, and we're very interested in trying to replicate some of it.
Thank you, Ms. Reed. I will toss your comment to Professor Choi. He'll do exactly as you said. I'm not sure if they will be useful or not. He'll be his best. Any other comments, suggestions?
You have questions?
Questions?
The challenges you have for this session. Yes, please.
Thank you for the brief presentation. I am Ahmed Al-Kilani from Micro Small and Medium Enterprise Development. And also my boss, Dr. Rafat Abbas, is online with our meeting today. And what I want to comment about this great presentation that we showed, the difference between the micro and the small and medium enterprises here in Egypt. Each sector does need a specific group. And when we talk about the finance, the technologies and innovation, totally different to finance the ordinary projects. So we should focus on specific sectors and the medium of SMEs. When we talk about the handicrafts, it's totally different about when you talk in the industrial parks, and also it's totally different when you talk about the innovation and the startups and working in technology. Thank you very much.
Right. Any other comments, questions?
Yeah. I would like to say that I am delighted to which today the presentation because some findings are matching with the findings